As part of the Daughters of the Resistance campaign, we had the pleasure of speaking with Nazeeha Saeed, a Bahraini journalist living in exile in Berlin. She shares her powerful story of confronting repression in Bahrain, the challenges of being a woman journalist, her journey into exile, and the sources of strength and hope that fuel her ongoing fight for freedom of expression. Nazeeha, since the beginning of your career, you have been a strong advocate for human rights, the rights of women and minorities, as well as the freedom of expression through your profession as a journalist. What inspired these commitments and what drew you to journalism as the path to pursue them?
I started my journalism just 2 years before the between brackets reforms started in Bahrain. So it was an era where, human rights are something to talk about, and there were many human rights organizations that started to get formed. So I get attached to that subject because I also come from a background. I mean, my family is um, involved in politics, so it's not a subject that's away from me. My mom was still a woman rights advocate, and my father was into politics. So it was something close to my heart and something that I know about. And the specific part about freedom of press and freedom of expression was related actually to my silencing. Like when I faced silencing, and when I saw that my voice matters and other journalists' voices matters, and there were attempts to silence us. This is when I started to be also vocal more, and also started to advocate for freedom of press and expressions, because without that, in my opinion, there is no democracy.
Yeah. So, can you explain a little more about the types of reprisals that you face as a result from your reporting, especially during the Bahrain's 2011 pro-democracy uprisings, where your work was critical?
In 2011, not only the political sphere in Bahrain got changed, but also my life and my career. And that's due to uh, I was acting just normal as a normal journalist. There were protests in the country, and there were unrest. So I was out on the streets covering what's happening. But that looks like that this is not what the government wants, and this is not what the people and the authorities actually liked. So I got arrested, and I got mistreated, or you can even call it torture. And later on, there were minor arrests, stopped in on the streets, not being um, allowed to cover the protest, or being banned from entering the area, or banned even from entering some press conferences, till 2016, where my license were revoked. And also I was banned from travel, and there were a case against me in court, and that what led at the end of the day for my exile.
And how did these experiences affect your mental health and your ability to continue working as a journalist? Were there moments of apprehension or fear, hesitation to continue your career?
I'm a human being, so fear was always there. Sometimes it's still there when I'm writing about critical issues or sensitive issues that I know it will bring an attention, and it might bring not a good attention from the authorities. But what keeps me going is I believe that I have a voice, and that voice actually made to talk about these things and to reveal what's happening. And I'm a part of the change that I want for me, my family, my loved ones, and my country.
5 years after your initial reprisals in 2016, you've described a bit of how it was the travel ban as well as your license being revoked, which ultimately led you to leave Bahrain. What informed this decision to relocate to France, and were there any support networks behind you?
There were no formed decision to leave the country. I left out of fear. It was a moment that I was allowed to travel, so I booked the nearest flight and I left. I didn't know what's going to happen afterwards, so it was not planned at all. After a while, I find also my network in where I was living and um, some connections that made staying outside possible. Yeah, so the decision was made.
So now that you're no longer really reporting from on the ground, how has that shifted how you approach journalism as well as the opportunities that are brought to you?
It got shifted a lot. My work got shifted a lot since I became a journalist in exile. And after navigating for a while, how do I do this now? Because it's totally different than when I was back home. For example, I was a correspondent for a TV and radio. I was doing breaking news on these channels. Now I'm not on the ground. So what kind of reporting I could do? So I'm now doing more analysis, more like the background of the stories and also what is the reaction on something that happened. Um, Given that the area, which is the Gulf countries, is not a very covered area from the international media in general and Arab media in specific, due to many aspects, made still the work that I'm doing relevant and also special, I would say.
I was just wondering if this is sort of a common struggle among exiles, this jarring transition, and in your opinion, if you do believe that there's something that the wider journalistic community should do or could do to support journalists in exile's integration into the country.
There is still a big gap between what is needed from journalists in exile and what the networks that exist to support is offering. Um, we are we are people who we to start with we are people, so we have emotions, trauma, and we are leaving our countries, we are leaving our um, culture and the place that we are familiar with to be somewhere else. So to get support for all this change is already a lot. And then get support to have a legal status where you are staying, because this is one of the biggest fears that the people who go in exile is facing. And then also a source to live, which is a job or kind of a support or a social system that could support the exiled people, but also exiled journalists.
You've been an outspoken advocate for women's rights. How do you believe speaking on such gender issues, especially while you were in Bahrain, influenced the state's response? And do you think women journalists experience repression maybe in ways that differ from their male counterparts?
Advocating for women's rights in Bahrain, it's a struggle of more than 60 years that the women are working on it. We are still behind in many cases. Bahraini women fought for every right that they have today, um, and they are still fighting for more. And and these more that I'm talking about is just basics like passing your nationality to your kids, like passing your nationality to your spouse, um, like having a equal opportunity to get job as with the men, while especially young women are pushed away because they might, get married and get pregnant and have kids. So the uh, the employers don't want that, don't want to deal with that, so they are preferring to give the job to men. When it comes to to female journalists, we are facing different layer of repression. And it is not only from the state, it's also social pressure and social threats, I would say, to our identities as female journalists. We are more out. Me myself, I had to work late at night in newsrooms, and these environments are not made for women. So, or not made to that the women feel safe in them. With the time and me imposing myself in such spaces, it became more friendly to have women in these areas. But I believe there is still a lot to do to make the journalistic environment in Bahrain and also neighboring countries is more welcoming and safe for women.
Now that you're in exile, how do you see the current situation in Bahrain, and what maybe gives you hope that continues to inspire and sustain your work as a journalist and advocate for press freedom and free expression in the country, despite all of these challenges that you've endured?
If I don't hope, I will not continue doing my job. And also, I'm somebody who's believing in change, and change will happen. If it didn't happen in my days, it will happen after that. Nothing stays the same. So I just decided to be part of the change process. And I wanted to be the one who is talking about it and trying to change it. Not only me, for sure. I mean, with all the other people who are working on the change. I always see hope. There will be changes now or tomorrow. Freedom of expression should be guaranteed for journalists, and maybe more freedoms and more democracy in the country.
Thank you for listening, and we thank Nazeeha for sharing her story with us. To help amplify her voice and those of other courageous Bahraini women, join the Daughters of the Resistance campaign.